Oil fell below $80 a barrel this afternoon, and the Dow closed at an all-time high. All of it on one sentence from the Treasury Secretary. There is a chance, he said, of a deal today or tomorrow to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. 5 months of war, possibly ending this week. Fact This News, the afternoon extended edition. Tuesday, August 4th. Also this hour, the biggest company ever to go public opened its books for the very first time this afternoon and lost money. A wildfire northwest of Athens has taken more than 100 homes and killed 2 pilots. And later, the single number that explains why Wall Street is still betting on Elon Musk. Start with the waterway. Iran and Oman are closing in on a deal to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, according to regional officials speaking Tuesday. Here is the shape of it. Ships would enter the Persian Gulf through a route controlled by Iran and exit through a route controlled by Oman. Both governments would charge service fees, framed as payment for security and for preserving the maritime environment. Secretary of State Marco Rubio's assessment today: progress made, but not finality yet. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went further on CNBC, saying there is a chance of a deal today or tomorrow. The sticking point is what Iran wants in return, and that is the lifting of the U.S. blockade on Iranian ports. Nothing is signed. One line on this. A deal that collects a toll in both directions leaves Iran with more control over that strait than it had before the war started. To Greece, where Europe's wildfire emergency has turned deadly. A wildfire northwest of Athens has destroyed more than 100 homes. 2 firefighting helicopters collided over the area of Psatha in Attica while working that fire. Greece's fire service says 2 people aboard one aircraft were killed, a Greek national and a Danish national. The crew of the second helicopter, 1 Greek and 1 British, survived. At the same time, flames on the Ionian island of Kefalonia forced evacuations from inland communities, with aircraft making water drops over the island. Fires have also burned through farmland and olive groves around Porto Germano, Megara, and Phokida.
Markets, and this was a big close. The S&P 500 finished up 1.79% at 7,737. That is its first record close in 2 months. The Nasdaq Composite gained 2.59% to 26,585, and the Dow rose 1.71%, up 907 points to 54,086, the first close above 54,000 in the index's history. 2 drivers: the Hormuz headline and earnings. On earnings, AMD reported record quarterly revenue of $11.5 billion, up 50% from a year ago. Data center revenue was $6.7 billion, up 107%, and that unit is now 58% of the entire company. Earnings per share, $1.66 against expectations of $1.55. Guidance for this quarter, about $13 billion. The stock fell more than 8% anyway. And here is the one everybody was waiting on. SpaceX reported earnings this afternoon for the first time ever as a public company. Revenue $7.8 billion for the second quarter against analyst forecasts of $6.8 billion. That is a beat. The company still lost money, a net loss of $541 million, but that is an improvement on a $1 billion loss in the same quarter last year. All 3 business units beat consensus. Connectivity, which is Starlink, brought in $4.3 billion against a FactSet estimate of $3.8. The space unit, which is Starship, did $962 million, and the AI unit booked $2.6 billion. For context on why this report mattered so much, the stock has fallen more than 45% from its June peak. Our take: a company that loses $500 million in a quarter and still beats on every single segment is telling you the losses are a choice. They are buying scale. Whether that is worth it comes down to the number we are closing the show with.
Quick word, brought to you by ResuFresh, resufresh.com. Code Tryman today. Power. Todd Blanche now appears to have the votes to be confirmed as Attorney General. Blanche has been serving in the job in an acting capacity. His nomination had been held up by 2 Republicans, John Cornyn of Texas and Tom Tillis of North Carolina, over an anti-weaponization fund inside the Justice Department. Both now say they will back him after their demands were met. Separately, the Senate finalized a stopgap measure that would block the administration's overhaul of federal grants. And President Trump said Tuesday that the renewed talks are Iran's last chance to end this war at the bargaining table, with Phase 1 requiring Iran to reopen the strait immediately before any negotiation over its nuclear program begins.
The future and the humanoid robot race has a new entrant with a factory attached. BYD, the Chinese automaker that outsells Tesla on electric vehicles, is unveiling its first humanoid robot this month at its Zhengzhou site. That makes car makers, not robotics startups, the driving force in this field. Tesla, Xiaomi, Xpeng, Chery, Dongfeng, Chang'an, and GAC have all launched humanoid programs. The reason is simple. A humanoid robot is a battery, a set of actuators, a vision stack, and an assembly line, and automakers already own 4 out of 4. On deployment, the Chinese firm Agibot reports 15,000 units shipped cumulatively. Tesla has pushed the production start of its own Optimus humanoid to late July or August, with sales to outside customers not expected until late this year at the earliest.
Your health. A study published in the journal NPJ Aging used an accident of history as an experiment. Britain rationed sugar during and after the Second World War and ended it in 1953. Researchers compared 64,737 people born on either side of that line. Those whose first 1,000 days of life fell under rationing had a 27% lower risk of dementia from any cause and a 46% lower risk of Alzheimer's disease specifically. Their brains also scanned about 4/10 of a year younger than expected for their age. The honest caveat, and it matters. Only 307 people in that group developed dementia, 123 of them Alzheimer's. Those are small case numbers, and this does not prove that cutting sugar in pregnancy prevents dementia decades later.
Weather, and it is the engine underneath that Greek fire story. Europe is in a record-breaking heat wave, and the drought that came with it is now hitting infrastructure. France, Greece, and the United Kingdom are all reporting drought conditions after a summer of record heat and very little rain. In Hungary, NBC News reports a nuclear power plant was shut down because falling river levels left it without enough cooling water. Scientists quoted across this coverage tie the severity of the season to climate change. Practical note if you are traveling to southern Europe this month. Fire closures and evacuation orders are moving day to day, so check local civil protection alerts before you drive anywhere rural.
Entertainment. Ted Lasso returns tomorrow, August 5th, with its 4th season on Apple TV. And the streaming calendar this month is unusually loaded. Michael, the Michael Jackson biopic, starts streaming on Starz on August 10th. That film grossed $1 billion worldwide this spring, making it the highest-grossing biopic of all time. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer returns to Peacock, and Billie Eilish's concert film, Hit Me Hard and Soft, launches on Paramount+. Sports. The UFC card to circle is UFC 330, August 15th at Xfinity Mobile Arena in Philadelphia, with Islam Makhachev against Gary in the main event. Before that, Fight Night 284 this Saturday, headlined by Gamrot and Salkild.
And the number of the day, 12 million. That is how many Starlink subscribers SpaceX reported in today's filing. A year ago, that figure was 6 million. It doubled in 12 months. That is the number underneath the loss. And it is why a company that just told Wall Street it lost $500 million in 3 months finished the session with analysts arguing about how fast it can grow rather than whether it can. That's the afternoon extended edition. Follow us on X at FactThisNews.